Good evening and welcome to the December 12th, 2023 Heritage Commission meeting. Could we all rise to pledge allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call of members, if we could, we'll start with you, Steve.
Steve Gannis, Selectmen's Rep.
Carl Frank, Vice Chair.
Marion Colby, Chairman.
Stephen Calloway.
Gail Barringer.
Okay. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the November 2023 meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Were there any additions, deletions, corrections?
Not that I noticed.
I had one tiny thing that on page 2, under demolition of Olson property, it's historically, culturally, or architecturally significant, and not technically significant. Just that one word. Other than that, I didn't find, yeah, that was just a little typo. I didn't find anything else, so is there any discussion of the minutes from November? Okay.
Move to accept the minutes as amended.
I second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye, okay. 500, minutes are approved. Okay. Did everybody get, I have agendas if anybody needs a copy.
I have one, thank you.
Oh, okay. We have one? Okay. I have a couple things to add to this. Number one is we received another request for demolition, so we'll get to that. We received a letter in support of retaining the Corning House, and we have some news about the archaeological survey. Is there any other requests, any other additions or deletions to the agenda that any other of the members have?
No.
Okay. Okay, number 6 is public input, and seeing no members of the public present, we'll go right to number 7. And we need to have a discussion about the demolition permit application for the Corning House at 540 Charles Bancroft Highway. Who would like to open up this discussion?
So I guess we should start from the beginning. Got a demolition application to demolish the old farmhouse at the former Dark Hall Horse Farm has been made. And so that, because it's a site plan change, will be going back before the planning board. And then depending on the planning board's decision as to what should be done there, then it will come back to the Heritage Commission for a public hearing and discussion. And we were all sort of surprised that a demolition permit request was made because the builder at that site, as part of getting the approval of his plan, had promised everyone that the building would be saved and turned into 2 condo units. But Jeff Blackwell told Marion that the reason that he had changed his mind was that it would be too expensive to bring the building up to code. And so that was the reason.
Right, and there's been quite a bit of, this all happened just after Thanksgiving. And once the application is made, it starts the timeline, the progression of the timeline. I responded to Jeff that we did find the house, historically, architecturally, and culturally very significant. The house is from 1755 and one of the oldest houses remaining in town. And I wrote up information that Stephen gave me, regarding the significance of the house, sent that to Jeff. And once he notified the owner that we had found, that we would have to hold a hearing about this, that starts another, part of this timeline. So, we were under the gun to hold a hearing within this time frame, and I was away, and I wrote to Kim Kleiner, town administrator, and she set up a hearing, which at the time, I had also written to the planning board to find out if the approval of this plan was contingent on, keeping that house, and would that affect it? I didn't hear from anybody in the planning board, and I understand that they all, they were all working regular jobs, and this was during the day. So I reached out to Jay Minkara, and he said, yes, it did it was indeed part of the approval, that was on the site plan, that he would have to go back. So that, in our mind, we decided that we should not, we would be inappropriate for us to hold a hearing and go to all the work of what we would need to do to hold the hearing. And then.
May I interject?
Certainly,
a little bit
yes.
And tailgate on what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because when the three of us went to the planning board meeting on the 5th, we all testified or spoke to the fact that the planning board had conditionally approved the developer's plan on, at the May 22 meeting. And in that plan, and at every presentation before that, in February, March, and April, the house had been part of the plan and was to be turned into a two-family unit. We spoke with the planning board, we had a good conversation, and at the end of the meeting, the planning board, I recollect, said that because there was needing to be a change in the plan if they were proposing to demolish the house, setting aside all the Heritage Commission business, they would need to come back to the planning board, they, the developer, with an addendum. And so I think, I thought, and I think some of us thought that that was it.
Yes, and they actually recommended that we not proceed with any hearing or anything else
Right.
until they were done
Right.
with their business.
That's what I was concerned about. I want to make sure that we're not misstepping, because the town bylaws are pretty clear, the ordinance is clear about the scheduling. And
Yes.
But if that's the legal opinion, then I feel better about this.
Well,
Well,
that was
the
their
of
opinion.
the planning board, it wasn't necessarily the legal.
But then, when we brought that,
But
it
there's
has
more to
been
come.
very confusing and has
Yeah.
taken up a great deal of back and forth and time for all of us that,
And, Kim was on vacation, Kim Kleiner.
right,
And Jeff Blackwell is now on vacation.
right, their
And so
vacations
we've sort of
overlapped.
been trying to figure things
I
out.
thought people do that in August. Between
Well,
Christmas and New
then
Year's.
Kim Kleiner reached out to the town's legal representatives,
Right.
and their opinion was that once the timeline's running, that nothing stops the timeline.
Well,
So then,
okay.
we reached out to a couple of the selectmen who were very much in our corner on this and thought that we should just put a moratorium on
Right.
this application
The whole
until the whole
procedure.
thing's settled, and then proceed with the timeline. But of course, we didn't have the legal authority to do that. But it was decided, Stephen and I, at the last minute, were requested to show up at the selectmen's meeting last night, which we did, and to speak on to introduce this topic so that they could then discuss it. And it was agreed upon there that if the developer would agree to hold the timeline, well, basically, since the proper signs weren't posted by the owner,
That
being a
stops
big
the
enough sign that could be
progress of the
read
time.
from then technically that stops the timeline until such signs are posted
Okay.
that can be read from the public byway. And
This
those
is-
definitely
these are the
could not
signs
be
that were
read
posted.
from the public byway, since
Okay.
one wasn't even facing the road.
Behind a bush.
So, yeah, so anyway, but anyway, Kim Kleiner wrote to me today, and she said that she approached, she contacted the owner, and he's very agreeable about just putting the thing on hold until such time as it's
He's
all
in no
straightened out.
rush.
He's not in a rush.
He understands that it was a very rushed thing, so
Right.
he is fine with just putting everything on hold.
until everything's settled.
Until
Okay.
the planning board
Mhm.
Yes,
gets the revised
Right, until,
plan or the addendum.
yeah.
right, and then it'll all start up again, sometime coming
And our
down the road.
timeline, if we come to have one, we'll
Right.
start fresh
Okay.
Yeah.
from whenever.
So he,
Later, so.
and we had realized that, of course, we didn't tour the house, so we really had, we're
Right.
supposed to come up with alternate ideas of how to save this house. And if we hadn't even seen the inside of the house, then that
It
would
needs
be
to
very hard.
photographed.
So, and, yes, has to be photographed, et cetera. So we contacted, Mr. Moreau, and, he was in Florida, so he wouldn't have been back until this afternoon. And so therefore, the earliest that we could have, because we were hoping to have seen it before we came to this meeting, so we could discuss alternate plans. But the earliest that we could have seen it is tomorrow, and, due to some scheduling things, we're probably gonna ask him if we can see it Thursday. So we can go through the house on Thursday. And then we can be ready for when whatever comes up, comes up.
Will we solicit any input from the public in regard to
We're getting to
alternate
that part.
plans?
Well, I have something
Oh,
on
okay.
that when we get down the agenda a little bit, but, so that's sort of the history of how we got to where we are tonight with this property.
So each one of these episodes with demolition and going through the permitting process and so forth is a new learning experience.
Right.
Right.
And we will get better and better at it as time goes on.
Right, and I got a call, as we know, Kim Queenan was very instrumental in setting this whole Heritage Commission up and in getting these different ordinances and so forth structured. They had a woman working with the planning board at that time, I think her name was Jen Sip or something like that, anyway.
Sissick.
Something, she wrote that ordinance, and Kim said, it seems like they don't jive, Kim did the timeline, the chart timeline,
chart.
the flow chart, and the other, Jen wrote the ordinances, and they seem like they don't coordinate, and she said she'll work with us on getting those straightened out. And we talked about it last night, that we need to have them even if we have to go to the voters about it, there needs to be a bigger timeline, because even if we were full-time town employees, it would be nearly impossible to do all this in that time frame. It's just very, like last year when we did the Bixby House and you were away, we just had to take the bull by the horns and do it, and we went down and had the sign printed up, which then the town didn't, because it cost like $100 to get that sign printed up. And it really wasn't even, it was big enough, but it wasn't really adequate because it wasn't really weatherproof. But, we did the very best we could to get it on that property in time. And, that was our requirement to now the way it reads, the way Kim Kleiner was reading it is that it's the homeowner's responsibility to have the sign printed up.
Yep. That's clearly what it says.
So, we probably give them the guidelines, and something like this is probably the wording we want. And then, but it has to be, big enough to be readable from the road. So this is how we got to where we are, and our next goal will be to, the planning
And
board
again,
asked us
One of
to.
the great shortcomings of the schedule that we have set before us is that we need public input.
Right,
And we just don't have time. Probably 90% of the people in town have no idea that any of this is going on.
right.
To get word out there, with the sign, and maybe up for a little
I think
longer.
maybe if somebody from the Historical Society puts a post on there and says, the Historical Society is made aware of this, and this is what's happening, and anybody in the public who,
Would like to comment or.
should show up at the,
Attend
I don't know,
this
should they
meeting,
go to the
right.
planning board, or should they come to our next meeting, or go to the hearing, or
Well, they can do both.
or write to us or whatever, but we need to have some public input, and that's what Gail was alluding to, that we should solicit it. And how would you suggest we do that, Gail?
Well, I like your idea of using Litchfield What's Up. I wish we still had the Hudson Litchfield News.
Yes,
There's
right,
a prime
yeah,
example.
Yeah,
And get the word out as best we can. in
Well,
that fashion.
when we had the Wilson farmhouse, the Bixby house, we posted old pictures.
Right.
And that brought up a lot of, that gave a lot of interest to it. And, people, it was an eye-catching thing to see these old, and then read about what was going on. And I think if we got some old pictures, that should help us with it.
Yes, that would
And,
help us out. And we do have old pictures.
And, we might be treading on some thin ground with the communication policy, but, like any other committees in town, it's the same handful of people that are on everything, and so it's no coincidence that the core people of the Historical Society are the core people here. And so you put on one hat to post something on Facebook, and you put on a different hat when you come in here,
Just be sure if you post.
that you say it's from the
state who you're
Historical
posting
Society,
from,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought we could do. I think that would be one way to reach people, and then,
This is an interesting picture, for example, Carl. This is the old house when the road went on either side of the
oh, the house was in the middle?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's interesting.
Drive under that porte cochere. How does that work?
Where are you looking? No, those are the barns there, so it went around and joined in again.
Oh, I got
With
you.
this road.
Okay, wow.
And this was probably, I had said to Gail, I thought about 1930, there's an automobile there. But I actually think it's probably between 1925 and 1930, and I think that they might have been prepping the new highway here, and this is the original road.
Oh, wow.
oh, I see, so at one point,
Neat.
that house was on the east side of the highway,
Yeah.
and then it ended up on the west side of the highway, when they redid the road. Very interesting.
I remember going with my great-grandmother Corabelle and Newell Carney and Maud, and in their big black car, and driving between the house and the barn.
Oh,
I had said
oh.
to Stephen, I have that clear recollection, and then he came up with a picture.
Wow.
I wanted to say too, though, in terms of getting input from the public, and we're looking for any suggestions people would have that are alternatives to demolition. Who knows, there may be some citizens in town that would come up with some good ideas.
But
You know,
it could
what-
be a great senior citizen center, there's lots of possibilities
Right.
that could be.
Yeah.
That's something too I wanted to bring up. Say, we'll just go for an example. Say the builder says, you know what, I don't want it, you can have it, do something with it. I don't
Right.
like
Sell it to you for $1.
But then, without any funds or location or long-term goals, it makes it difficult. I think that's something maybe the Heritage needs to look at, like, if we're given this opportunity, we need to have funding to be able to purchase the house or move it.
The same thing happened with the Bixby house.
Yeah.
They
Yes.
said
Yeah,
yours
same
to
thing.
move.
Yeah, because how much would it cost to move it? How much would
Exactly.
it cost to build a foundation?
Right.
What will it become?
And the land.
And then how,
Right.
and
Who's
the
gonna
land,
maintain it?
and then maintain it, and, because it is kind of, it's a really cool house, it'd be nice to move, but the cost to move it and
Right,
maintain it.
right, and
The trouble up there is those power lines.
Yes. Yeah.
that's the problem there, I think.
But
Because
power lines-
evidently, he's already said to Mr. Blackwell that we could have it.
Yeah, just
Just get it, he wants it out,
Well,
so,
he
yeah.
said that originally anyway, same with the barns.
Same with the
remember?
barn.
Right.
Right, and they would have gladly taken a barn and just moved it down to Moore's Falls, but
was the power
couldn't
lines.
do it because of the power lines, so that's the problem. But unlike the Bixby house, which had fire damage, which, may or may not have been as bad as, what was reported to us, but this house doesn't really have any damage, and so,
Because it's
Yeah,
always
yeah.
been owner occupied.
yeah, the people were
Right.
living in it up to a year
Tenants.
ago, and so
Right,
it
right.
was maintained, and, anyway, evidently the problem is that once you start doing things, then the whole house has to be up to a code, but I think maybe that's something that needs to be looked at with older homes that we need to save.
We have an existing building code in the state, which
Mhm.
recognizes that not all old homes
Oh.
meet code. I mean,
Okay.
if you're gutting it and remodeling it, then yeah, a lot of it needs to be brought up to code, but if you're like fixing one room, then you don't need to bring the
Mhm.
rest of the house up to code,
Well,
But we're-
certainly in the meetings of February, March, April, and May '22, it was clear that the house was going to be saved, was going to be turned into a two-family unit. And therefore, one would think that the developer would have the wherewithal to
Have checked.
renovate the house and make it livable. That was in his plan.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, I mean, it's, when you're going from a single family to a two-family house, you're not changing use categories in the building code.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff isn't triggered for upgrades. I mean, if there are some glaring safety issues, then sure, that's one
Mhm.
thing, but I mean, it's not even considered a change of use because it's the same category.
And I would bet that the Dubois family who owned it kept it in fairly good condition.
Yeah.
And the fire department found it to be structurally sound.
yeah, it's structurally sound, right, so that's another plus. So I think, where do we go from here? Well,
So those will be our challenges
Right,
when
so-
we are given the task.
Yeah.
But we may want to do some preliminary work ahead of time, like getting notification out via the Historical Society
right,
to the public.
all right, LHS posts. Okay, and then, and these three next things on the agenda really, well, that, about the, the demolition permit, and discussing the timelines and the rewording of the, of all that business, but 8 and 9, I talked, Kim Queenan called me today to tell me that she had looked at everything and that she'll be happy to work with us to try to sit down and try to reword this stuff and make it,
Clarify.
yeah,
the
and I think
positions.
that, and I told her, I said, I really have gotta have that timeline, that flow chart thing. Even when I put it on my computer screen, it still is,
Doesn't match.
no. I mean, no, it matches, but I can't, it's too confusing. It's gotta be done in a way that people like me can
It's like the zoning
understand it.
process in many
Step
towns.
one.
I mean, my
2,
eyes
3,
aren't that
4,
bad, but
5.
my God, I think I have trouble with it. And forget about it when I'm trying to, I'm out, I was away on vacation and I'm trying to look at it on my phone. No,
No, yeah.
there's just no way. I was trying to take little pieces of it and enlarge it and just figure out how much time we had to get this done, and it was crazy.
And what was the original time frame of when the permit was requested to, when the building was it 45 days? It wasn't, I don't even know if it's that.
No, we need
No,
to
it's
do
not
that.
even that.
I don't think it's that. I know it's 15 days to have the hearing after.
Well,
I don't know, now I'm
within
already-
5 business days of being notified, we have to comment
Right,
on whether or
right.
not we have to call
We have
that.
5 days to get back to
Found to be
Jeff.
historically, blah, 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 blah. The Heritage Commission shall establish a date and location for a public hearing to occur within 25 calendar days. Set a date,
Okay.
not have the hearing.
Right, set a date.
Within 25 calendar days. So we have basically till just before Christmas.
Yeah.
Right. Right, and I mentioned that last night, that we would still be within our time frame if
Yep.
we even just put the hearing off.
Right.
But then I understand that you have to have notice for, I forgot about that 10 days
10-day
notice they have
notice,
to
yeah.
give for the hearing. So,
Well, right, okay.
and that was one of the roadblocks there of just putting the date out a week from, But anyway, thankfully, Reggie Morrow is agreeable to just, taking our time with this and not having to rush through it. And so I appreciate his willingness, because I know that last year when we went through this, there was no willingness to extend anything.
Can you clarify for me, as a member, whether or not, in fact, we won't be holding a hearing until after the developer comes back with an addendum to the planning board?
I
Yes,
don't
because-
think we will, because
Because
the
the whole
hearing
process
for
has
Thursday
stopped.
is canceled. The hearing on the
Right.
14th
I'm
is
just
canceled.
asking for
Yeah.
clarification.
No, the hearing on the 14th that was scheduled has been canceled. Donna Burrell sent me the cancellation, or put it on the email today. And I think it's on the town,
Right.
that it's been officially
The
canceled.
reason I'm asking is at the
Mhm.
planning board meeting on the 5th, at the very end, the chair said that the developer was coming back on January 18th
Right.
and asked if we would attend the meeting to express any concerns that we have. So
Mhm.
that's why I just asked the question, are we really looking at not holding a hearing until after January 18th?
Yes.
Or prior?
No, after.
No, I think
Okay.
after is
All
what
right,
my
well, I
understanding
wanted
is.
to clarify.
That's my understanding at
Yeah,
this point,
because the
yes.
timeline won't begin again until we trigger it.
Right.
We don't have any intention of
Right,
triggering it.
I just wanted to be
Right.
clear that it's January
That- that's the
18th
plan.
or after.
Yeah.
Right,
That is our understanding as of this moment.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so does anybody have anything else to add about that demolition permit?
No, I would agree with you, you know, thank you, Mr. Moreau, for
Yes, I
giving me the
appreciate
time
him,
to do
yeah,
what we need to do and.
very much. And we're going to, I'm gonna call him tomorrow, and see if he can meet with us on Thursday. I guess what, mid-morning, would be good?
Are you available?
Anybody available on Thursday to go and walk through it with us?
You'd have to go on a weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, do we wanna, we can't do it Saturday.
my schedule's anything but flexible
Yeah.
during the week.
Yeah. What about on Sunday?
I can't go, but you guys could go. Well, maybe he'd let us go
you-
twice.
Well, right, we went down to Bixby.
Yeah, we went to
Sunday.
Bixby's twice, so we
Okay.
could go try to go Thursday and
Yeah.
take some pictures. Although Carl takes pretty good pictures too. Steve, are you available, or you would
I'll
be
have-
available on the weekend?
I'll have to see how my schedule is.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I will, when I find out, I'll send out a quick email
Okay.
and let everybody know when we're planning to go.
And
Gail,
we'll
you're
get-
available?
We'll get pictures, interior, exterior anyway,
Yeah,
so that we will all have
yeah.
access to those.
And then we'll see if he'll allow us to go on, go, for people to go on the weekend.
And there was another question that came up in terms of, well, it was so hard to figure this house out because there has been so many additions. There have been no additions. Even, I think I forwarded to, no, I didn't forward it to Gail. There's a picture of the family standing on the Route 3A part of the highway. And that, what would appear to be a little shed in the back, although I think it's probably an early kitchen, it was there. And that was in the 1800s, and so there really isn't anything other than, for some reason, the Dubois,
Put a
on the
new
rear of
window.
the house toward the river, they put a second floor deck and a door going there where there probably had been a window, for their pleasure, but that I wouldn't really call an addition.
And they changed that window in that kitchen, so that made it look newer,
Yes,
but
there were two windows
the
there.
kitchen was always
where
there.
the bow window is, so.
that's where the Randalls, I know the Randalls' kitchen was there, that's where
Right.
the kitchen was. Okay, so I think we're all, we're pretty much on the same page. We're gonna we'll try to get the word out about this, and we'll work on that through the Historical Society, and put some different posts with pictures and so forth, and try to solicit citizens' comments, ideas and comments,
And hopefully there's respectful.
right? Well, there'll always be some people that aren't. And, we just have to have a thick skin about that, because you're gonna get your wise guys always.
Yeah,
You know,
but,
Oh, it's an eyesore, it should be
this man
torn
is,
down and so forth.
you know,
Yeah.
offering to help out. and
Yeah, he's trying to help
he
us,
Doesn't need
right?
to be kicked.
Oh, no, we
twice.
wouldn't, no, we're not gonna, no, we wouldn't.
Oh, no,
get
I'm
it
not
for
saying
no.
you are, I'm
No,
just
no.
saying that the.
Oh,
the
yeah, there was some
citizens will-
rude comments, and then there were
Yeah.
comments when that first post went out. Well, there was a lot of misinformation, and I did
Right.
have to say, no, it has not been, I did step in and just give a fact. But then people had their comments about, oh, it's an eyesore, it should be torn down, but that was only one or two out of 170 comments, so,
Right.
yeah. Most of the comments were positive.
You made a good point, Steve, because I think, I just want to reiterate that it's certainly clear that none of us on this board are casting aspersions at the developer.
Yes,
The
Right.
issue is the house.
yep.
Right, yeah, exactly. And then, 3 would be to work on clarifying some of these timelines and regulations, and maybe trying to,
Yeah, you need a Gantt chart that goes across, this is when it starts and you have all the gates that you
Yeah.
have to go
Right.
through and what triggers.
although I see the one that you have printed out, and that looks a
That's-
lot nicer to me than the one I've been looking at,
It's
so.
one off the website.
I know, but I didn't, maybe I should have printed it like that. I don't know what I did, something, but that one looks sort of, Still confusing looking to me
Oh, yeah,
though.
it's too many.
Oh, I've seen worse.
I probably created worse, but I mean,
Looks less confusing than this one.
but no, this, yeah, well, yeah,
Might be the
yeah,
same.
maybe being in color makes a
Yeah.
difference, cause it's blocked off in different colors. I don't know, that looks pretty good. So work on clarifying the ordinances and timeline, and Kim said she'll help us with that, Kim Q. Okay, all right, so shall we move along then? All right, we had a request for, we got notification from Mr. Blackwell, there was a request for demolition of a trailer at 2 Lorry Lane down in the Olson Trailer Park. Being that was over 60 years old, you know, he'd send us the information and the property card and so forth, and, well, 3 of us discussed it, and Carl, you weren't there at the planning board meeting, but we discussed it afterwards, and we don't find it to be architecturally, historically, or culturally significant, so I did respond to Mr. Blackwell and let him know that we felt the application could be approved.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, now, we also received a letter, I got an email from Kim Kleiner with the inclusion of a letter, and I don't know if, it might have been to the Heritage Commission, but it just was late in the day. To Kim Kleiner. Dear Miss Kleiner, anyway, it's a letter from a woman named Catherine Conway, writing on behalf of her father and herself. And they have owned property on the corner of Corning Road and 3A, directly across the street from 540 Charles Bancroft Highway, for 50 years, and they wish to implore the Heritage Commission to thoroughly, thoughtfully, and fully consider the request to demolish the home. This is one of the few remaining historic homes in town, the first to greet visitors entering from the north, having stood on the property since the late 1700s. Until the property was sold 3 years ago, until the previous owners moved out about 1 year ago, it was well-kept, well-maintained home with historic value to the town, and so forth. And I'll share it with everybody, and I think we need to respond to them and let them know that, you know, we're doing everything we can. So they respectfully want to go on the record to be opposed to the demolition of the house, and ask that the Heritage Commission and town leadership carefully consider the tangible as well as intangible value that historic homes such as this one bring to the town of Litchfield. So how do you?
So if you respond to that person,
Mhm.
you should encourage them to attend
Yep. I will.
whatever upcoming meetings and discussions there are, including the planning board meeting of January 18th.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
And that will be their
Mhm.
chance to voice publicly
right.
their concern.
And I think we may want to encourage the public that's interested to attend any
Yes,
upcoming
right,
planning
yeah.
board meeting, don't you?
Yes.
As
No,
in-
just that one.
Right.
And-
I'm sure the Heritage Commission's responsibilities will come up sooner or later.
Right,
Yeah.
encourage her to. And maybe she could be helpful in our, you know, posting and so forth, like as a person, as a neighbor who is in favor of it, that she could be, we could maybe, you know, solicit her to help us with some of the posting, so it wouldn't look like the same 3 people are always, you know, harping on the same topic. So I'll reach out to her
That's a really good idea.
and get her, you know, Stephen had a suggestion earlier that we get a like one of those online polls that they do,
Right.
and say,
Like Jason
you know,
Brennan
yeah,
does,
yeah, like
yes.
Jason does, and see, and I thought, well, we probably can't post that ourselves, but maybe we could get somebody else to put their
It could
name on
even
it.
come through WhatsApp with Jason's weekly
News.
news.
Yeah,
newsletter.
we could, yeah, we'll talk to
Having a
him.
poll to see how many people are in favor of saving this house and how many
Mhm.
prefer demolition.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think it's been clear to me this past week or so that people that have posted in regard to the house are careful to say that they're posting as resident or a citizen.
Right.
And do you think that is a
Yeah,
good thing
that's-
to do?
Yeah, well, Jay's gonna be careful, cause he is
On the conservation, yeah.
but,
Well, we
There
have to
are-
we have to be careful too.
As
That's
well,
why I brought
yes.
it up at our meeting in
Yeah,
November.
right.
yeah, something like that, that's, you know, it's a poll.
Yeah.
It's the discussions and the topics that
Of the
can
day.
go sideways, that can cause
Right,
problems.
that,
Put
it's
a
those
poll.
it's those comments that come in that can,
Yeah.
that can
And it
be
would-
libelous,
It would be
yeah.
sort of funny
Exactly.
if his little newsreel didn't contain something about that.
Yeah,
Yes, good
So,
point,
mhm.
yes.
But there's also, you gotta remember too, it's not just Jason that runs the WhatsApp page, there's
Mhm.
three
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
One of them's my wife, so she's not affiliated with any boards or commissions.
Right.
And as well as
Diane?
Diane, yeah,
Yeah.
Diane's on the board though.
Mhm.
Diane, Judy, and Jay are all on some kind of commission.
right.
But my wife and Pete Salinas are not,
Oh, okay, he's not, well, yeah,
so they can't get in trouble.
right,
She's
right.
probably cursing at me right
Really
now,
hard.
but
Oh, are they our viewers? Our couple of viewers?
she's probably watching
Yeah, great.
from Florida,
Oh,
so
wow,
she could do some work.
that's okay, that's good. Good time of year to be there. Okay. Now, we have some news, I'm gonna have Stephen share with us the news about the archaeological survey.
Yes, the Board of Selectmen approved the Phase 2 archaeological survey for the Thorntons Ferry site. And so I sent an email this morning per their instruction to the Monadnock Archaeological Survey out of Bridge, New Hampshire, and also to Matt Labby, who is the person who directed the field study here in Litchfield for Phase 1, to let them know that it has been approved, the funds have been approved, and that they need to get us a contract as soon as they can.
Right, so that is, we thank the Board of Selectmen for that, very much as the
Yay,
Heritage
yay.
Commission and from the
Phase
Historical
2.
Society,
Phase 2.
yeah,
Yeah.
Phase 1 is here.
Yeah.
And we'll be getting phase 2 and hopefully someday printing.
yeah. So that was very good news. And I think we had discussed it at the last meeting when we were talking to John
did.
Croce about the, you know, about the Native American heritage in town and so forth. So it'll be very interesting to see what is uncovered at that site in this survey.
With this new survey, which is much more in-depth.
Right, with the ground penetrating
The
radar, et
Phase
cetera,
1
yeah.
survey sort of is done to reinforce that it is in fact a historic site, with
Validate
potential
that it
for,
is,
right,
potential.
for some great finds.
Right.
Can you share what you shared last night at the selectmen's meeting about some of the, just briefly, some of the interesting things that were discovered?
Well, there were innumerable things that were discovered, pieces of 18th century pottery, 19th century pottery, so they knew that it was a site from the founding of the town on. It has been in continuous use. They discovered additional cellar holes that we were not aware of on the property. We knew that there were many little houses and businesses and so forth, but we didn't realize that they necessarily had cellars under them and so forth. They discovered that and believed that there are more to come. They expressed that they would be very surprised, particularly up in the old muster field, if there were also not Native American artifacts to be found and so forth.
Mm.
And, you know, we know the state of New Hampshire considers this a very important site. And the director of historic resources, probably 25 years ago, did quite a lengthy paper on this site and the need for preservation and so forth and so on. And they have been actively involved with us through this whole process. When we originally sent out notification that we were looking for bids for this Phase 1, they helped us do that, told us what companies would be the best suited for what we needed. And you know, I'm sure that they will continue when we get to this Phase 2 for more additional suggestions. And they've been down to the site several times to look at it. So,
So thank you, Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, that was really a great, yeah, that was very, very good. Very, very, important, and we had their
Yes.
support, so that was
Yes.
awesome, yeah.
So
That was
hopefully
great.
this will lead to that entire little area becoming a very nice little historic destination.
Mhm.
Talk a
Carl's
little-
house sitting right in the middle of it.
Yeah, there you go.
Talk a little bit about the muster field, because that's, to me, that's so interesting.
Well, it is, the man who wrote this paper for the state, I met him on several occasions, and we walked the property and so forth. And he told me that, his name is Jim Garvin, he's now retired, but he said that this was the only undeveloped muster ground in the state of New Hampshire. And the muster ground here is much earlier than people originally thought it was. They presumed it was a late French and Indian War, Revolutionary War muster site, but in
Mhm.
fact, the Historical Society has a letter from, I believe it's 1742, calling for muster on this site. And
So picture all the young men in Litchfield being called to the
Mhm.
muster
and from the
ground,
surrounding
right
towns.
across from your
It was-
house.
It was a very big
Yeah.
deal. Of course, they had a good time for themselves, they drank too much, and there were rules imposed upon them. They had to comb their hair, and they had to do this,
Oh, I'm out.
this and that and the other thing. And in this
Sure,
particular.
about to call for muster.
Right.
Yeah, right.
And in this particular call for muster, they were to each bring a certain amount of money to purchase a drum for the group.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Wonder
It
how-
really is.
How large it was originally, because now it's kind of small, so.
Yes,
Yeah,
because part of the muster ground was lost with the flooding
With
too.
the flood.
That's what created that very dramatic bank that's
Yeah.
there now.
Mhm.
Flooding and erosion of that
Right.
bank. And, it's a very, very fragile site today.
Well, that's one of the difficulties, the whole,
Right,
that whole
and even
historic
the
area is
Phase 1
very
survey,
fragile,
the
yeah.
field people said, there should never be any heavy equipment on this site and so forth, because it is too fragile.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I came out of my house, I was going somewhere, and I heard a pickup truck in that field.
Driving up,
Yeah, and sure enough, he came down
my goodness.
out to the road, and I'm like, oh.
Anybody you recognize?
No, I didn't recognize
It may
him.
be that we'll have to encourage Jason to put 2 granite posts with a little chain
Chain.
link.
Oh, that's a
across.
good
Here's the
idea.
funny thing, moments later, Tom Levesque drove by, so I flagged him down. And I said, hey, you should be aware, someone was just up there.
Driving.
So I think we
Mhm.
need, because yeah, that's like, the ground shifts and the truck is tumbling into the river.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true too, yeah,
Exactly. So,
just for safety's
Yeah.
sake, yeah.
So it was brought to his attention, I don't know what'll happen, but, since we're talking about it, I thought I'd
Yeah.
bring it up now.
How long
far
ago did that happen?
Oh, a week or two,
Oh,
yeah.
recent.
How far south does the actual muster field up there on that hill go?
It was a
Well,
good-sized little field.
Yeah, the river goes straight-ish and 3A departs to the south,
Mhm,
so it
yeah.
widens quite a
Right,
bit.
right.
Right, but I'm talking when you go up that
Yeah,
incline.
When you get to the top.
How big
It's
is
pretty
that?
good size. It
It's
was
pretty good size.
Like a few acres?
Few acres.
Yeah, it's probably maybe 120 yards.
We need a green state marker.
Yeah.
Yeah, another one.
Right, well, that's all right, there's a
Yeah.
lot of towns that have many
Yes,
of those green
yes.
state
Right.
markers.
Yes, thank you, Marion.
And then
Me
there are
too.
people like me that go along and stop and read them and take pictures and think about it and take my 90-year-old cousin along for the ride, so yeah, it's a great thing, and it's close to a lot of population areas, and that would be a feather in our cap in the town, I think. So that's a good thing. Okay, does anybody else have anything to add to any of those topics that we added to the agenda, or any other things? Okay, is there any new business that we need to discuss? Anybody?
Do we have a date for the next meeting?
Well, that's a good question, Gail. Let's look.
January, what would that be, 13th?
Well, that was another thing that was brought up, because of the difficulty in scheduling a room for us that has the TV coverage and so forth, that we, evidently we need to really consider changing our night.
I think we should.
And so maybe that's something that we should discuss now, since we're all here. So what night works for people, other
Well,
than a Tuesday?
I think actually, we're gonna have to look at the schedule,
Room availability.
right, and see.
Do you
What
happen to
other
know,
groups
John, which nights would be appropriate for us to move to?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
It can't just be like the third Thursday of the month? Or Tuesday?
Second,
I
oh,
mean?
maybe.
I
Third
think it's like
Tuesday?
the third, yeah.
And this next meeting, it would be nice if we met, were able to meet before the planning board meeting,
Good idea.
When's the planning board meeting?
the 19th, yeah?
Well, that's a
January
Friday.
19th or 18th.
Well, that's.
Are they a Thursday, the
I was
planning
talking about
board?
the January
They're
18th, but
Tuesdays.
they'll be meeting before.
They're
that,
Tuesdays?
In December.
The next
Or
one's the
maybe
19th.
not, maybe not.
The 19th of December.
December.
That's
Yeah,
the
I think you're
planning
right.
board.
Yeah,
December,
Yes.
not January.
But that's not when he's going there, right?
Oh, I don't.
we
have
don't
any
know
idea.
that.
All right, I'm gonna have to talk to the people, okay, we'll have to get their agenda. So we can't do the third Tuesday because that's the planning board.
So typically the third Thursday is open.
Well, then why
So,
don't we do
yeah,
that?
we could do that as easily as the
Sure.
second Tuesday.
Sure.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay,
In fact, it will never fall on voting day again if we do that.
Yeah.
third Thursday.
Unless the
All right,
state-
but
Both
now that's
November
gonna
and-
create a problem for, so if the planning board meets on the third Tuesday, then the third Tuesday in January is the 16th. So our meeting wouldn't then be until the 18th, so that's gonna be an issue for January.
Well, maybe in January, we could stick to the schedule we have now.
So the planning board meets on the first Tuesday and the third.
Oh, the first, oh, okay, the first,
We could meet on the
Yeah,
fourth.
first
they
Tuesday
meet
month.
twice a month
Correct.
for, wait a minute.
And they started the 18th of January at their meeting as the next.
I think they were talking about I don't know what they were talking about, because January 18th, January 18th is a Thursday. And they meet on the first, and it would be the 2nd or the 16th of
They
January.
might have just had the date
I'll
now.
have to go back
Planning
and
board.
look.
Yeah.
So that's they meet the first and third Tuesday, you said, John?
Yep.
First and third Tuesday. All right, so maybe we better check with them and then decide if we want to try to meet on the 9th of January and then move it in February, or if we want to try to meet on the 18th, which our new date would make it 18th of January, would be our new, if we meet the third Thursday.
Yeah, Mary, I would just suggest you run it by Kim Klein.
Exactly.
just to
Okay.
make sure there's
All right,
no
so
conflict.
I'll send out an email when we determine, but it'll
Yeah.
either be the third Thursday. Well, that'll be our date going forward, once we get this thing straightened out, okay? Third Thursday.
Could even be the fourth Thursday.
Yeah. Just another day when the room is available.
Budget committee meets on the 4th, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't like the
They should
4th.
ask Matt. Matt has a template.
Matt probably doesn't know.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
The 18th of January is the best.
That would be the best one for us.
Okay.
Do you want to reserve this room for the 9th, though? The January 9th?
Is
one?
it available?
I'll make it available to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then-
I think let's stick with the 9th of January, and then we'll
Okay.
move in February to
And
the
that'll
third
give you
Thursday.
time to talk to Kim Kleiner about it.
Right, okay.
All right, I'll get this room booked for you and I'll confirm it. I'll send you an email to
Okay,
confirm this.
all right.
Thank you, John.
So that's 9th of January. So Gail, the next meeting is January 9th, 2024.
I have written it down.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good.
And
And
thank
then
you, John.
starting in
And
February,
Matt.
we'll go to the third Thursday, and then we'll be in the other building on the third Thursday in the meeting, the main room.
Ooh,
We're gonna reach the big time.
play in the palace.
Wow, okay. All right, so
We've arrived.
if we don't have any other, if nobody has any other business, then we could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
500.
All right.
See you in January. We'll be in touch. Carl, is